A bench warrant was issued today in Santa Clara County for a man who should be the cornerstone of a championship offense, but instead chose to film himself driving 104 miles per hour past his own home stadium. Brandon Aiyuk is officially a wanted man for a misdemeanor exhibition of speeding charge, adding a bizarre legal chapter to what has become an unprecedented and silent exit from the San Francisco 49ers.
The video he posted back in December was baffling on its own, but seeing it culminate in an actual arrest warrant today crystallizes the complete derailment of his career. You have a player who was given a massive contract extension, suffered a severe knee injury against the Chiefs in 2024, and rather than rehabbing, essentially ghosted the entire organization. The Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office took the referral in January, and now we are seeing the legal hammer fall on a player who has already dismantled his professional life.
The timeline is what makes this so difficult to comprehend for anyone watching from the outside. The 49ers placed him on the reserve and left squad list on December 13th of last year. That maneuver effectively ended his season and allowed the team to void his guaranteed money for 2026. He just walked away. There was no blow-up on the sideline during a game, no formal trade demand this time around. He just stopped showing up to work. When a player does that while rehabbing an ACL and MCL tear, it naturally forces observers to ask what is happening psychologically. It raises immediate questions about his mental stability and the voices in his ear.
Those questions are unavoidable right now, Oliver. When you examine the series of decisions, cutting off communication with General Manager John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan, posting a video of yourself committing a reckless traffic violation right outside Levi's Stadium, and then recently posting photos on Instagram flexing stacks of cash while you have no guaranteed salary coming in, it paints a picture of someone who has lost touch with reality. People in NFL circles are definitely pointing fingers at his entourage and his representation. The assumption is always that an athlete making choices this destructive must be surrounded by enablers who are afraid to tell him the truth.
I want to challenge the entourage argument, though. It is very common in professional sports to blame the agent, the childhood friends, or the managers when an athlete self-destructs. We say he's getting bad advice or that the people around him failed to protect him. But at 26 years old, Aiyuk is the one hitting the accelerator on the highway. He is the one pressing upload on social media. He is the one refusing to answer phone calls from his employer. At what point do we stop questioning the people around him and place the entirety of the blame squarely on his shoulders?
He holds the ultimate responsibility without question. The people around him might be fostering a toxic environment or failing to step in when he spirals, but Aiyuk is the architect of his own downfall. The decision to abandon his rehab protocol for a severe knee injury is a profoundly personal one. No agent tells their client to stop rehabbing a torn ACL. That is a career-ending move in modern football. Medical professionals across the league have noted that stepping away from structured recovery for that kind of trauma usually means you never regain your previous explosiveness. Aiyuk chose to walk away, and by doing so, he is actively throwing his career into the incinerator. The consequences are his to bear, regardless of who was whispering in his ear.
That brings us to the inevitable comparison that has been floating around the league. Just last month, former All-Pro defensive back Asante Samuel took to social media after those cash-flexing photos went viral and labeled Aiyuk Gen Z's Antonio Brown. That is a heavy label to throw at any receiver. Brown is the gold standard for wide receivers who let off-field erraticism completely overshadow Hall of Fame talent. But the comparison seems to be sticking in the public consciousness. How accurate do you think that parallel really is, given the different ways they exited their respective teams?
The parallel is striking in its underlying psychology, even if the execution looks a bit different on the surface. Antonio Brown's final act in the NFL involved him stripping off his jersey and walking off the field in the middle of a game in January 2022. It was loud, chaotic, and public. Aiyuk's exit was a silent walkout. He just stayed away, cut off communication, and forced the 49ers to place him on that reserve left squad list. But the root cause looks identical, a fundamental inability to function within a team structure, coupled with a deep-seated belief that they are bigger than the consequences of their actions. Both players reached a point where they viewed any standard organizational rule as an insult to their status.
There's also the shared tactic of using social media as a weapon, which often backfires spectacularly. During the 2019 offseason, Antonio Brown used his platforms to force his way out of Pittsburgh, creating a spectacle that dragged on for months. Aiyuk did the exact same thing during his drawn-out contract negotiations in the summer of 2024. He was constantly dropping hints, posting cryptic messages, and publicly flirting with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Washington Commanders. It worked for Aiyuk initially. He got the lucrative extension from San Francisco because he exhausted the front office into a deal. But now he is using that same tool to incriminate himself with a speeding video and alienate potential trade partners with those tone-deaf photos. It is the same playbook, ending in the same disaster.
That is a crucial observation. Both players learned early on that creating a public spectacle can give you leverage in contract disputes, but they failed to understand that leverage evaporates the moment your production stops. Brown burned his bridges with the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Patriots before finally running out of chances in Tampa Bay. Aiyuk is currently watching his market value plummet to absolute zero. According to recent reports from the big league, teams view him as a risk not worth taking, and the 49ers cannot even get a conditional 7th-round draft pick for him. The rest of the league watched how he handled adversity, and they universally decided to pass.
Which brings the conversation back to the physical reality of his situation. Antonio Brown was mostly physically healthy when he self-destructed. Aiyuk is dealing with a knee that requires intense daily physical therapy. The 49ers hold his rights because of that reserve designation, but they are not paying him because they voided his 2026 guarantees. He is sitting in a self-imposed limbo. If no team wants to trade for him and the 49ers eventually release him after the June 1st deadline, who is going to sign a receiver with a broken knee, zero recent rehab history, and an active arrest warrant in Santa Clara County.
The harsh truth is that no one is signing him. That is why the consensus leaning right now is that he has simply thrown his career away. NFL front offices are notoriously willing to overlook character issues if a player can guarantee them 10 touchdowns a season. Talent often outweighs trouble in professional football, but Aiyuk cannot guarantee anything physically right now. A team would have to take on his legal baggage, the media circus, the constant risk of him randomly walking away again, and the massive medical uncertainty of an unrehabbed ACL. It is an impossible sell for any general manager trying to build a winning culture.
It really is a tragic miscalculation of his own worth and invincibility. You look at the trajectory he was on just a couple of years ago. He had blended route precision with immense explosiveness. He was a foundational piece for Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme. Now he is fighting a misdemeanor charge while his prime athletic years waste away. It is a stark reminder that physical talent is only one prerequisite for a long career. The mental discipline to navigate adversity, handle newfound wealth, and make rational decisions under pressure is just as vital. Aiyuk seems to have lacked that second set of tools entirely.
The sad reality is that Aiyuk likely thought he had ultimate leverage because he secured the bag in 2024. He thought the money made him untouchable. But the NFL is a ruthless business that operates on a "what have you done for me lately" mentality. The moment you stop providing value on the field, the tolerance for your off-field antics drops to zero. Aiyuk tested the limits of that tolerance, and the 49ers responded by voiding his contract and moving on without him. Now, with the district attorney stepping in, the consequences have moved from a mere professional dispute to a tangible legal crisis.
It forces you to look at the broader culture of the wide receiver position in the NFL. There's a long documented history of divas in that role, stretching from Terrell Owens to Antonio Brown and now to Brandon Aiyuk. Some manage to walk the tightrope and keep their careers alive because they continue to produce at an elite level, balancing their eccentricities with undeniable on-field dominance. Others fall off. Aiyuk seems to have plummeted off the tightrope entirely, and while it might be tempting for fans to point fingers at his agent or his inner circle for not steering him right, the man behind the wheel going 104 miles per hour is Brandon Aiyuk.
The vehicle of his career was in his own hands the entire time. He signed the contract extension. He chose to walk away.